Today I will be demonstrating how to colour a fairy face like Christine Karron using this design by Christine from Colouring Heaven issue 89. I will be using Caran Pablo pencils, but you can use any type of pencil, just pick similar colours. First of all, you need to decide on your light source. I'm going to use the same light source that Christine has used in her demonstration video for Colouring Heaven. This is coming from above right, so that the nose, cheeks, lips and point of chin will be illuminated. Now start with your lightest pink shade. I'm using 082 Rose Pink, and you want to colour very lightly using small circular movements. Christine's technique involves building up many layers of different colours, so they need to be applied lightly so that they blend together in subtle ways. So for the time being, I'm going to avoid putting any colour at all on the tip of the nose and this part of the nose here, because it's going to be the very lightest part. So what you're doing in this initial stage is you're mapping out where the lightest areas are going to be. So doing the cheeks, this is the part of the cheek that is illuminated. A little bit on the ear. And then down here, I'm going to leave the tip of her chin completely white for the time being. So I'm just colouring around it. And I'm going to put a little bit in the lips. I'm working around putting this colour in the part where the mouth would open, because this will be slightly darker. So again, I'm going to leave this section completely white for the time being. So now we've thought about the white areas, we're going to start by mapping in the areas of shadow. And for that, I'm going to use my lightest shade of green to start with, which is 245 Light Olive. So the green and the blue areas are going to be in the areas that would be more in shadow. And I'm going to put in a bit more green than Christine has done in her demonstration, because this is a pea elfling, so I think she would be a little bit greener. So we would have shadow here around the jawline. And I'm going to put a little bit in the corners of her eyes. And the other eye. Then there would be shadow under her hair, where her hair is falling. And also in these areas under the nose. And of course, the area under her chin. So that's the green. And then we want to take the lightest shade of blue, which for me is 161 light blue. And again, I'm going to mark more of the areas of shadow in blue, because we want to mix the blue and the green. So I'm going to do her eye sockets in blue. And then leaving the green here at the corners of her eye, a bit under her eye. And the other eye socket. And under her eye. Then I'm going to go down and put this part of the shadow here in blue rather than green, and eventually they're going to merge together. Then I'm going to do blue on the other side of her chin and the shadow, so there'll be an area of shadow under her lower lip. There we go, coming round, and this bit will go up and merge in with the green. And around the shaded part that you would get under the nose. And I'm going to have a look at it, see if there are any areas that I've missed, and I will go over those with the green. So I think there would be a bit of shadow here, and down the side of the nose here, and up around this part here. Now when Christine is colouring, she leaves a characteristic white line around the edge of the face, running around here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in at the end with my eraser. But if you want to, you can leave it at this stage. So you would just stop your shading a little bit above the black outline. Now I'm going to do some more work on the eye sockets. I'm going to darken those using two darker shades of blue. So I've got Sapphire Blue 150 and I've got Night Blue 149. So starting with the Sapphire, here we go, I'm going to work into the darkest parts of the eye socket. So this area here would be the darkest area, and then blending that out. Blending into the green there. This one will blend into the pink. Also work on the tip of her nose. So I'm going to put some Sapphire Blue. That's going to be an area of dark shadow. There's going to be quite a contrast here. There's going to be a very dark shadow around the end of the nose, and we're going to leave the tip white. And I'm now going to add more with the Night Blue, which is a darker shade. So I'm making the eye sockets very dramatic. I've gone gone a little bit hard in there. So what I'm going to do is, this is a putty eraser. It looks a bit like blue tack, and how it works is you get a bigger block of it here, and you just tear off a chunk, and what that does is it just lifts the pigment off the page. So unlike an ordinary rubber that tends to smear, this just lifts. So if you think you've put on a little bit too much colour, you can just dab away with this and it will remove it for you. And a bit under the eye, so I'm going to follow this black line here with the dark blue, and then the tip of the nose again. So I'm going around the very darkest areas and blending up into the lighter blue. So I'm now going to do a similar exercise with different shades of green. So I've got 2 shades of green here. I've got the Spruce Green 239 and the Dark Green 229. So with the Spruce Green, I'm going to do a similar thing, which is I'm going to darken up the areas of the eye socket. Which is the edge bit that I've put in here. Blend it out a bit so we don't get a sharp line. I'm also going to put a little bit on her ear. While I'm about it, I'm going to add some under her chin. This is going to be the very darkest area of all, the area under her chin. So that's going to be in the most shadow. I'm also going to, you can see here, Christine in her design has marked, you can see faintly, that is the shadow from the collarbones. And that is the hollow that you get at the bottom of your neck. So I'm going to put a bit of darker green in there. And there, and I'm also going to put a little bit of spruce green on the tip of her nose. So that's the spruce green. Now for the dark green, again I'm going to use this in the areas of darker shadow. So I'm going to make the area here around the edge of her eye the darkest, and then I'm going to blend into the spruce. Same over here, inside her ear, under her chin. So the next stage is to do a little bit more work on the light pink areas, and for that we're going to use a hazel shade. This actually is a hazel, number 053. So this will have the effect of darkening the pink areas a little, and I'm going to extend them. So this is going to move up and under the hairline. Again, with the hazel, you're still using very, very light pressure. So we're going to be going on top of this with other layers of colour. Then round the bottom of the nose, cheeks again, and that we're actually extending some of these areas a little bit now to meet up more with the greens and the blues. There's a pink area down here. Adding a bit to the lips, so I'm going to extend slightly the area that I shaded on the lips, a bit more where the lips meet, and a bit more around the bottom. Then we've got this area, the other cheek, just going to come over to meet up with the green at the side of the nose. And we're going to come right round here, meet up with the greens. And I think I'm going to put a little bit, so I've got some here, so I'm going to put a little area here on the other side so it matches a bit. I've got a bit on the ear, and I think on the neck I'm actually going to make this area here a bit more of a pinkish shade that's merging into the green, and this other collarbone shadow. Is the eyes. So I'm going to start off by looking at the pupil, and I'm going to put a dot in the pupil using Sapphire blue. Now, when you're colouring eyes, the first thing to think about is where the white highlights are going to be, because you need to have some kind of a white area in the pupil and the iris, which gives the eye sparkle and makes the person that you're colouring look more realistic. So looking at this design, I think Christine's already marked in some lighter areas, so I think we're going to have a white area here, and I think we're going to have another one here. So correspondingly on this eye it's going to be here, and then here. I usually make my white areas so that they match each other, but in real life that isn't necessarily the case. So I'm going to put a little dot here, sapphire blue, and a bit there, sapphire blue. I'm now going to do some work with the ivory black pencil 496. So what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to colour the rest of the iris, remembering to leave the white areas. I've gone over a little bit too far there, so I'm going to use my Derwent eraser. Just take a little bit off, and then I'll use my, this is a Faber-Castell drafting brush. It's a very, very soft bristle brush, and what you can use that for is to sweep all the bits of the eraser off the drawing. You can use a soft paintbrush as well, that's equally effective. Now before I do anything more with the black pencil, I'm actually going to take my white Posca pen. This is a fine one, which is 0.7 millimeters. I have found I've ordered some in the past and I've accidentally ordered ones with a thicker nib, so you need to check that before you put your order in. So you just have to, you dab it on a piece of paper to get it going, and then I'm going to paint over part of this black line where I'm going to leave the white highlights. So it's going to go here and here, and on this eye it's going to be this area, here, and this area here. Right, and I'm going to go around the rest of the outline of the iris in this black. The ivory black is a particularly dark shade of black. I know that sounds weird because black is dark, but black actually comes in a lot of different shades. This is good for doing things that you really want to be black. So I'm going to go around the inside of the eye here and the inside of the eyelashes. I'm going to do the rest of the eyelashes at the ends because at the moment I'm putting the other colours over them. So it's easier just to colour over them and then come back and blacken them in at the end. So next of all, I'm going to use slate grey, number 495, to do a bit more shading in the eyes. Now, eyeballs are not a completely flat white. They are shadowed like everything else on the face. So I'm going to put some grey shadows here. This will actually have the effect of making the eye look brighter. I know that sounds contradictory, but the dark shading at the edges will make the white part look even whiter. And then this line on either side of the shiny area is going to be a shadow, and on the other side as well. In fact, this whole area is going to be in shadow. And on this side, we're going to have a shadow here. Again, on either side of the shiny area, we're going to put in some shadow. Slate grey is a warm shade of grey rather than a cool one. So the next stage is to do some more work on the iris. So I'm going to start off by colouring most of it in the light olive. Then some darker areas using the spruce green. Now what I find when I look at an eye is that it tends to be dark around this edge and then lighter near the pupil. So I'm going to put the darker green around the edge here and then blend it upwards. So this part is left a bit lighter. We also want to colour over the grey so it takes on a greener tinge. Now, to emphasise the lightness around the pupil, I'm going to take some yellow. This is yellow, 010. I'm going to put some bright yellow in just here, just around the edge of the pupil. That will really bring the eye to life. And then I'm going to take the dark green And I'm going to emphasise just around the edge. And I'm going to put 1 or 2 lines just coming up. So if you look at your iris, it does have a few lines in it like this. And then I'm going to come back in with the black. This pupil wasn't quite, needs to reach up a bit more. And then I'm going to darken the edge of the shine a bit more. There, I'm going to bring this round a little bit. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I just need to extend the pupil a little bit. Put a little bit of black along the edge here. And then to finish off, I'm going to take the Posca pen again, and I'm just going to make sure that the bits here look really white. There, so that's the eyes finished. The next thing I'm going to do is a little bit more work with the darker greens, because I'm going to emphasise these bits a little bit more. So I'm doing all this shadowed area with the green. The areas under her hair. And this area of shadow on the side of her nose. It's a little bit dark, so I'm going to dab at it with my putty rubber. Then I'm going to do a similar thing with the blue. So I'm just working into the shadowed areas with the Sapphire blue. So we've got under the chin, around the point of the chin and underneath it. It's basically all the shadow areas that haven't been covered with the green. Well, I've done a bit too much there, so I'll dab it out with the putty rubber. Now, this area of the neck will be in shadow. The hair will be cutting out the light. What you'll find is as you add in the darker shades, the lighter shading that you did previously seems to disappear. But don't worry about that, because we're going to do some more work on that later on. Now I'm going to do something that makes Christine's drawings have their impact and unique quality, which is do some shading with a black pencil, which is an unusual thing to do. I'm using ordinary black 009 here, which is less intense than the ivory black and is better for subtle shading. So with this, I'm going to shade the darkest areas of shadow. I'm going to use very, very gentle pressure, because we don't want to make it too black. So starting here under the hair, very light pressure. And then you want to make sure that you've blended smoothly into the surrounding colour. It's a bit uneven there, so I'll just dab it away again. Now, the area into the eye socket is one of the darkest areas, so I'm going to do that with the black. It really makes a massive difference to the quality of the shading putting in this black. A bit more in there. And the other eye socket. In fact, the whole of the area to the left of this eye, because that's all going to be in shadow. That whole area is shaded by the hair. You remember the direction of the light source. This area is also the furthest away. The light is coming from the upper right. So the whole of the cheek down here is going to be in the deepest shadow. It's a bit dark there, so I'm dabbing it away. I think you'll find that a putty rubber is very useful for this kind of shading exercise. Now under the nose. Under the bottom lip. And under the point of the chin. If you think it looks like she's growing a little beard, don't worry, it will disappear eventually. And the ear, that's going to be very dark because it's covered by the hair. And under the chin, it's another very dark area. And down the back of the neck. And make sure that you've blended in the next colour along. Now I'm going to enhance some of the pink and hazel coloured areas with a deeper maroon shade. I'm using 080 Carmine. So gradually blend the carmine into the hazel area and also blend it into the blue, and you'll find you get a nice purpley effect. So I'm going to emphasise the cheeks, the nose, the chin, forehead and the lips. There's a bit of the eye socket I'm going to do across the top and the tip of the nose. And up the side of the nose. I'm putting a bit in here to accentuate the tip. Put in a bit too much, I'll just dab it out. To make the tip of her nose look rounded. I'm going to put a bit in on this side to match the other side. Then the other cheek. So I'm working out from the darkest area, getting fainter as I move into the light. Bottom of her ear, then the collarbone on the right hand side, putting in the shadows of that. Moving up into the back of the neck, then into the area where the lips meet. That's one of the darkest areas. and on the lower lip I'm using directional strokes, and I'm following the curve of the lip, and the directional strokes have the effect of creating the creases and the underside of the lower lip. Now I need to darken the crease of the lips, so I'm using the black pencil here, and I'm putting in some of the black shading as well, because this needs to be in a dark area. What we want to try and do is make the lower lip as three-dimensional as we can. What we do at this stage is have a look at the overall shading on the face and see if there's bits we've missed, and then work on getting it to all come together and end up with a balanced. As you can see, I've missed out some of the colour around the eyes, so I'm going to do that next, but I'm keeping the very lightest areas like the nose, the lower lip and the point of the chin. I'm going to carry on keeping those white. So I'm going to use the dark green here, blending into the light olive on the eyelids. Then the same for the other eye. I think that's actually the spruce green that I've picked up there. Then I'm going to put a little bit of green on the inside of the eye, just to follow our green theme, and a little bit under the eye. Then I'm using the rose pink to colour in the corners of the eye and the rest of the inside of the eye. And then I'm going to put some green into the top lip. And then I'm going to take the dark green and go a little bit around the edge, and again put some lines in to show the creases, and then into the corner of the lips. Now I've noticed that I've missed some of the areas that need to be black, so I'm going to put those in now, which is mainly the areas where the hair is casting a shadow. So what I'm going to do now is more work with the colours that we've used already to bring all the face together and to blend the colours in more. So I'm going to start off with the light olive, the rose pink and the light blue. I'm going to do more layers with that. I'm going to go over some of the areas that I've already done to improve the blending. And I'm also going to fill in some of these areas to make sure that we're just left with the 3 areas that we want to keep white. Light pink. So what you can do with your lighter coloured pencils is, if you go back over the darker areas, it burnishes and smooths out the colour that you've laid down. A little bit of pink here to match.
to widen the pink area here, blend it into the light green. So what we're basically doing is reapplying the colours we've used, pretty much in the order that we used them at the beginning, just to subtly build up more and more layers of colour. I'm going to extend the blue just outside of the nose here. So, smoothing the blending here. Pink. One area that we need to add is the corners of her mouth. We need to have a little bit more shading on them. I'm actually going to put some pink here, and on the other side as well. The nose needs some more work. And there's a shady area here, a bit under the nose, so I'm going to do that pink. Other side, I'm going to green. I'm going to bring the green right up here. Overlap with pink. So we then go through the same process with our darker shades. So I've got the dark green, the night blue, and the carmine. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to add the dark colours. This time I'm going to be building up in the shadow areas rather than the light areas. So it's just going over the areas that we've done before, darkening them and smoothing them. Some of the areas will be fine, they won't need adjusting. This whole area here under the jaw needs quite a lot more shadow. actually going to put in a little bit of the spruce green here as well, so that it blends more smoothly into the light green. Next of all, the dark blue. The eyes are pretty much done. I'm just going to light a shade of green. Much using harder pressure here, making the bottom of the lower lip really quite a dark shade. Do the same thing with the black, just look and see the areas where we can increase the amount of black. And again, smooth out. If you can see any uneven bits in the shading, you can smooth those out. Brighten up a couple of bits of the face with the yellow. Only bits left to do are we want to go over the eyelashes, as I mentioned before with the ivory black. I'm just going to sharpen. You need a really sharp pencil for doing the eyelashes. To do the eyebrows, so they won't be quite as dark as the eyelashes, so I'm actually going to use the slate grey. Do some of the strokes of the slate grey, and I'm going to go in with the dark green. As it's hair, I'm using the directional strokes. And to finish it off, I'm going to go over some of the areas with a burnishing pencil, which is a colourless pencil that just smooths out the shading more shine. So we've left the tip of the nose and the chin white. Shade them a little bit more. One of the effects of doing that is that there is a convention that lighter areas are closer to the viewer than dark ones. So that by leaving the tip of the nose and the chin white, it makes us feel, particularly the tip of the nose, that is closer to us than the rest of the face, which gives a much more three-dimensional effect. And to finish off, we're going to do the white line that I mentioned before around the jawline. So you could leave it as you're drawing, but I'm just going to go round with my Derwent eraser. And Christine does often also leave a white line underneath the nose. But in this case, because the nose is turned towards us and this elfling actually has quite a small nose, there's not really room to do it. So I'm going to leave it as it is. So there we go. That's how to colour fairy face like Christine Karron. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss out on future videos.